Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday, June the 9th, 2019, 6:23 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. We're going to do a methane report tonight. Also going to be looking at the NOAA data for the 477 millibar reading, and we're going to do a follow-up on the Brea Tar Pits that are leaking in downtown LA, and an earthquake report, worldwide earthquake report. So that's what we've got on the plate for tonight. So I hope everyone is doing well, and just sit back and let's see what's going on. So we've got CAMS pulled up, Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Surfaces, methane, and their latest data is from yesterday, Saturday, June the 8th. I have the Arctic area pulled up and surface level pulled up. I have the movie loaded up, and I have the correct color ledger. And so this is where it left off on Friday. We can see high release here in the Kara Sea to the east of Novaya Zemlya. We're also seeing another release popping up to the west of that area. Now, of note is the different levels of green color that you're seeing across the Arctic. Now remember that CAMS changed its color ledger coding system back in December of 2018. And with that coding system, all of this green would have been showing up yellow and orange. But they downplayed everything, and now that level of methane, which is around 1940 up to 2000 and 2020, all of those would have been in this yellow and orange color. So they just totally changed the color coding system, and so when you look at it and see the whole northern hemisphere pretty much covered in green, you think, oh, that doesn't look so bad. But it is bad. And although we're not seeing yellow and red coming up across the Arctic at this point, doesn't mean that methane is not releasing. It is releasing, and it's releasing through the sea ice, and the ice is melting very quickly. And I showed the sea ice a couple of nights ago, and so I'm keeping people updated on what the sea ice looks like and the condition of it up there in the Arctic. So we know it's not good. So let's go ahead and run this movie, and you can see for yourself where we're at. So the data is for Saturday, and then the forecast period runs through Wednesday of this coming week. So we're continuing to see release in the Kara Sea. Now look at this lighter color green. See this line, this edge moving across, and this is covering at the end of the forecast period, it's covering that whole east side of the Chukchi Sea. And right underneath here, beside the Siberian coast, is that East Siberia ice shelf where all the methane clathrates are buried in the sediment and waiting to be released when it gets warm enough. And it could be any day now, and it could have been any day now for a while because of the conditions that we're looking at. We're also seeing this lighter color green all through the Bering Strait, and we know that that is completely ice-free now. So where you see this lighter green, you'll also find, when you look at something like NASA Worldview, you'll find either no ice or very thin ice in the Arctic here. So we're also seeing higher releases of methane here in Alaska, and also on the Aleutian Islands going out into the Pacific Ocean. Now we do know that these are volcanic islands, and there are volcanoes that come all the way up into the mainland of Alaska, and Alaska has a lot of earthquakes too. It's just on the average, it averages 50 to 100 earthquakes a day. And you see that when I do the earthquake report. We look at how many all magnitudes are showing up in Alaska, and it's been high. It's been up there, and so I haven't seen it down to 50 in a while. We're also seeing continued release here in Siberia. This is an area that's connected to the Permian traps, the Siberian pits. I forget what they're called, but it had to do with the last extinction, where there were fields of volcanoes and the magma was just coming up to the surface. And so there are these areas that are left over from that time that have old lava, and they're very oil rich, just like we see in Canada with the Canadian oil sands and tar pits. Oil sands and tar pits are the same, pretty much the same thing, and we see them a large area like that up in Canada. Venezuela is another place in the world that has large oil sands, and they're extracting. It's a different extraction process for them to get the oil out of these kinds of environments, but they're doing it, and it's wrecking the planet. But you know, we're pretty much done already. We're just getting cooked a little bit more well done here. We're also seeing high releases out of Norway, Sweden, and then moving on over to Finland, and so on. Then here's another area in Canada that's releasing. Now when we get around to, I'll show the North American view too, and we'll see very high releases from about the middle of the United States and all the way over. So let's let this run through the cycle. We'll pause that there. Also, we're seeing China. It's just pretty much covered up. So now let's look at the North Pole view. So this, we're still looking down at the North Pole, but we're zoomed out a little bit so you can pretty much see the whole northern hemisphere. So let's load this up. It takes a minute or so to load it up the first time. So what we're seeing here's China and Asia. It's covered up. Here's India, and we can see that it's getting more covered up. India is having very high temperatures, very high, and I saw some articles about them going to be running out of water. Not sure when that is, but India's in trouble. Here's Saudi Arabia. It's very high because of the oil production over there. And then we have Europe, here's Spain, here's the UK, here's Ireland, here's Germany, and so we have pockets where it's more densely populated. It comes up, and it pops up when it's in the sunlight. The methane levels get higher, so that's why you see it come up and then it goes down and then it comes up on the other side of the planet, because the readings depend on where the sun is, because as it heats things up, it makes it pop up there. We're seeing high methane, or green, a lot of green coming out in rising from the Atlantic Ocean. Remember, this is surface level, and all the way across, and then coming from this from Russia and Asia and coming across the Pacific. So it's a lot of methane coming up. I'm going to be showing the NOAA data again today, and we did have another rise in methane for the 477 millibar reading, which is what I'm doing. So here we have North America, and Canada is included in North America. We can see some of the Caribbean island areas down here, and then part of Mexico and all of Baja. And this is Southern California. I'm also, like I said, I was going to be talking about that continuing release of tar. It's leaking near the Brea Tar Pits, which is an area in downtown LA, Los Angeles, here in Southern California. There's a whole museum and everything, but it's not being contained, and it's seeping up through the sidewalk, and you can actually hear the methane gas hissing up through it. So I've got some video to show you too today, and I showed it. I did a pretty comprehensive report on it last night from what Dutch Synth had reported on it, and I didn't include it in the title. I guess I should have. I just said earthquake report. A lot of times I do that. But this is a follow-up from last night. So if you want to see my first report on it, it's at the beginning of the show from last night. My earthquake report. Alright, so we can see the whole middle part from, this is basically the Mississippi Valley area, and going across up here in the upper Midwest, and look at this wave. Now the waves are starting. Look, this wave just move across. So it's actually releasing in large waves from the land. And this is what it does as it heats up. And you'll see this more and more as we get into warmer temperatures. And see this green wave just releasing across. We're also seeing up here in Canada, and here's this area, it just pops up. This is around the Hudson Bay area, I believe. So where they had the flooding in the U.S. is going to be huge methane, because it's water, it's microbes are growing, and it's also dirty water. You've got sewage in there, you've got fertilizers in there, you've got got all kinds of organic material that's in there that will just totally mess up the water supply. And you'll see methane. And I'm surprised we're not seeing diseases like cholera and things like that come up from the contaminated water from the flooding areas. Or maybe they've got it and they're not reporting on it yet. Or maybe I just haven't seen it yet. I don't know. So here's the world view. It's taken a while to load this. The world view always takes longer because it has more data to put in, I'm thinking. Well, it's getting hung up. You get the idea. So this is pretty much the same. So that's into the forecast period there. So let's put it back at the beginning. And now let's go to 500 HPA, and that's the closest we can get to comparing from CAMS over to this 477 millibar reading on NOAA. So here we can see 500 HPA is about 18,000 feet up, so it's halfway up in the atmosphere. We can see this green color is moving further south, and it's now becoming more aqua colored down in the Antarctic, and more green, meaning that the methane levels are increasing. They're definitely increasing worldwide, and it looks to me like the yellow color is creeping down further too. So I'm going to leave this as a backdrop. And next, this I downloaded the images from NOAA for the 4 readings from the satellites for 477 millibars. It says pressure 469 when you actually get on the image, but when you click, you have to click on 477 on the page before to get to here. So there are 2 satellites that take readings, METOP1 and METOP2, and they take them one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So I've got 4 images here from each of the readings, and the highest, this is mixing ratio of methane, and METOP1 from June the 8th, which was yesterday, from the morning, and the mean was 1,878 parts per billion. So that's the average of all of their readings here. And we can see this fuchsia color is the highest, and they're showing that can be as high as 2,520 parts per billion. So the areas that we were seeing dark red and brown on CAMS, we're going to see it as fuchsia over here. Okay, although it's also showing up in the Antarctic, that fuchsia colored, which we didn't see on CAMS. So you can't totally compare everything. You just can't, because it's different systems. Now here it is from the METOP1 satellite for the afternoon, and they've got a huge area of missing data across Europe and Africa for whatever reason. And also in the Atlantic and across part of South America and part of Russia over here. But the mean is 1876, and the highest methane reading was 2333 in the Fuchsia. The lowest was 1408. And the gray areas are no data. Here is the METOP-2 satellite from the morning of yesterday. The mean is 1855. The high reading of methane is 2368. That's for the fuchsia color. And here's the METOP-2 from the afternoon. We have more white irregular things sticking up with missing data. But the mean was 1854, and the highest of the methane reading that they got was 2308. So I put all of those mean numbers in my spreadsheet right here for June the 8th, and I put them all up here and added them up and divided by 4, and the mean for all 4 satellites for this week, or for yesterday, for 477 millibars is 1,865.75 parts per billion, and it went up from last week quarter to 0.25 parts per billion. So here's our graph, and we started charting this on March the 1st. And on March the 1st, it was 1857.25, right down here. And so here it is on June the 8th. And so it's a total rise of 8.5 parts per billion since March the 1st. So we're heading into the warming season for methane, and it's been on the rise a little bit earlier than normal than we've seen in the past, but of course it went up and then it came down, went up and down, but now I'm thinking it's going to keep going up now in our weekly reports here. So there's that. Get a drink of water. Now the Brea Tar Pits are part of Los Angeles, and we've been seeing some earthquakes not at them, but now there's some earthquakes happening kind of north of them. The Brea Tar Pits are hang on, I'll get it located. Okay, I'm back. I had to orient myself. Here's Wilshire Boulevard, and this is La Brea Avenue, and this is Fairfax Avenue, and so the museum and everything is on Wilshire, right here next to Hancock Park. It's right, it's right in, I think it's right in here. There's another building there. Oh, can't go too close in. So it's seeping. They said it was across the street. So it's across the street on Wilshire at Curson. So it's right here on that corner. So we've got Twitter. Let me refresh for Brea Tar Pits. And here's the latest post. If you just search Brea Tar Pits, heavy black oil bursting out of the ground near the Brea Tar Pits. Our area once had the world's highest oil production per acre. Well, it was saturated, that's why. And look, it's going down. So it's on that corner, and it's going down the street here, and it's getting all over. And that it's sticky. It's sticky. And they've got it marked, quadrant off. Says a puddle of tar is covering the sidewalk across the street from the Brea Tar Pits, and natural gas can be seen rising from the ground. Hang on. Losing my voice. I'll try not to. The Brea Tar Pits have erupted into the sidewalk across Wilshire at Curson Street this week. Is there any concern about seismic activity on a nearby fault or other slippage based on this, or is it completely normal? Yeah, right. So, Curson and Wilshire. There's Curson, and this is Wilshire. So it looks like it's on this corner right here. And the tar pits are right over here, and it's a tar pit, and they think they can contain it, and they're in the process of refurbishing everything, redoing the buildings to accommodate the tar pits, and I don't know what all. They're gonna get a makeover. And here's Dutch Sense's post from today. He says, guys, don't try and tell me this happens all the time. Crude oil, tar, and natural gas are coming out of the streets around the Brea Tar Pits now in North Los Angeles. Tommy Lee Jones, Volcano the movie. He plays Mike from St. Louis, by the way. And here's someone that says, I want to be buried in the Brea Tar Pits. I don't. Now, here's a picture. This is actually a video. It says black gooey mess bubbles up out of the ground near Ionic Brea Tar Pits. There was another one. Oh, this is the one I want to show. Watch this. That hissing is the methane coming up. Let's do it again. Look how far down the street it's going. Let's go back. I'll mute that. Look, it goes all the way down the gutter there. All the way down the curb. That's huge. And here's another one. California seismic warning alert. Oil, tar, and natural gas are hissing and being pressed up out of the streets in North LA around the Brea Tar Pits, right next to the earthquake swarm which just broke out this week. Well, it wasn't exactly next to it, but close enough. Here's the museum. And this is at the museum, and see that pool? That's all tar. And they've got their ancient mastodons and things standing there. So there's that. Here's the news report that goes with this. Let's listen to this.
A stinky and sticky mess seeping from the ground in the Miracle Mile. Tar taking over this corner of the sidewalk at Wilshire and Curson, right across the street from the Brea Tar Pits.
I've seen it bubble up a little bit before, and it's always fascinating when it happens. So I think, okay, the tar pits are going to win this time. They're going to take over the world. But this is the biggest eruption I've seen, and I think it's pretty cool.
The earth has been oozing tar and methane gas in this area since prehistoric times. Those passing by fascinated by the black goo bubbling from the ground.
We were talking today about we have tar pits in LA, and we were thinking, does anyone else in any other cities have tar pits? And we thought, no, I think we're pretty unique here. But I didn't expect them to be this side of the street. I thought it was supposed to stay stuck on the other side.
City crews are trying to keep the tar contained. Eruptions are quite common in the area, but residents say this is a relatively large leak that's easy to see and smell. The methane gas filling the air with a distinctly foul odor.
You know, you see a little bit of tar oozing up between the pavements all over the neighborhood. So that's not unusual, but this seems to be literally a flow of tar. So I've never seen this before.
Now the city will keep clearing the tar that's coming out of this naturally occurring vent here until it hardens, essentially sealing itself off.
Yeah, until it hardens and seals itself off. Well, what if it doesn't?
It is Pride
stop?
Week here in Los Angeles, and all of...
So, they think it's cool. They think it's wonderful. They're celebrating it. Here's another one. This is from the Daily Beast. The fiery underground oil pit eating LA. Now this is from 2014. December 6th, 2014. And so this is just to show that this is not the first time you're seeing oil and the tar pits talked about. So I found this an interesting article. Formless and ancient things from the depths of our planet move beneath Los Angeles, unexpectedly setting fire to sidewalks and burning whole businesses to the ground. Welcome to urban life atop a still active oil field. I mean, that's crazy. Sliding around beneath the surface of Los Angeles is something dark, primordial, and without form. It seeps up into the city from below, through even the smallest cracks and drains. Infernal, it can cause fires and explosions. Toxic, it can debilitate, poison, and kill. Near downtown Los Angeles at 14th Place and Hill Street, a small extraction firm called the St. James Oil Corporation runs an active oil well. In 2006, the firm presided over a routine steam injection procedure known as well stimulation. The purpose was simple. A careful and sustained application of steam would heat up, liquefy, and thus make available for easier harvesting some of the thick petroleum deposits or heavy oil beneath the neighborhood. Oh, that sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? But things didn't quite go as planned. As explained by the Center for Land Use Interpretation, a subterranean pressure forced oily ooze and smells out of the ground, causing toxic goo to bubble over into storm drains, streets, and basements. The sudden appearance of the nauseating black tide actually destabilized the nearby road surface, leading to its emergency closure, and 130 people had to be evacuated. It took weeks to pump dangerous petroleum byproducts out of the basements and to resurface the street. The firm itself was later sued by the city, so they were fracking. While this was an industrial accident, hydrocarbons are in fact almost constantly breaking through the surface of the city, both in liquid and gaseous form. These are commonly known as seeps, and the most famous one is an international tourist attraction, the Brea Tar Pits, with its family-friendly museum on Wilshire Boulevard. The tar here is actually liquid asphalt or pitch, and it is one of the many reasons why humans settled the region in the first place. Useful both for waterproofing and for its flammability, the sticky substance has been exploited by humans in the region for literally thousands of years, and it has also given LA some of its most impressive paleontological finds. In other words, precisely because they are so dangerous, the tar pits are a veritable archive of extinct species. These include mastodons, saber-toothed tigers, and dire wolves, examples of which have been found fatally mired in the black mess seeping up from the deep. Groups of these now long-dead creatures once wandered across an otherworldly landscape of earthquakes and extinct volcanoes, and active terrain pockmarked with eerie bubbling cauldrons of flammable liquid asphalt. Man, what an image. So they live around this. So this has been going on for a long time. Oh, here's this guy writes, Fox writes, that a methane vent opened up in the middle of Fairfax Street back in 1985, and it burned uncontrollably for days before it could be put out. At night, it was a world lit by flames. Astonishingly, he adds, in 1962, a Hawthorne woman had a fire under her house, a house with no basement. She located the source of the problem when she went outside and touched a match to a crack in the sidewalk. A flame ran down to it. That is spooky. That is so very spooky. The city where sidewalks burn and sewers fill with oily ooze is a city built where almost specifically for that reason. Los Angeles, in many ways, is a settlement founded on petroleum byproducts, and the oil industry for which the city was once known never actually left. It just got better at hiding itself. It's already well known that there are oil rigs disguised in plain sight all over the city. The odd-looking tower behind Beverly Hills High School, for example, is actually a camouflaged oil rig. An active oil field runs beneath the classrooms and athletic fields. Even stranger, the enormous synagogue at Pico and Doheny is not a synagogue at all, but a movable drilling tower designed to look like a house of worship, as if bizarre ceremonies for conjuring a literal black mass out of the bowels of the earth take place here, hidden from view. if you zoom in on Google Maps, you can just make out the jumbles of industrial machinery tucked away inside. This is creepy. That's like, you know, trying to hide cell phone towers. You know, make them look like pine trees and palm trees and things like church. They put them in church steeples and what all. I wonder if this is connected to the black goo. I wouldn't doubt it. Anyway, this article goes on. So it's a very well written article. But this was 2014, so this is nothing new to them. It's just a matter of time till something's going to blow over there, I'm thinking. Let me see if I've got these links. Yeah, I've got them. Now, this is from the LA Times from June the 6th. I guess this is kind of an article to kind of put people's fears at bay, because this came out like 3 days ago, and I'm sure it was leaking before yesterday. So it says the La Brea Tar Pits are getting a makeover. And here's why. The La Brea Tar Pits formed some 38,000 years ago and excavated in 1913 are getting a fresh new look, or at least the land surrounding the pits is being rethought. On Thursday afternoon, officials from the National History Museum of Los Angeles County, the entity that manages the site, announced the selection of 3 architectural firms that will develop separate proposals for a new master plan for the 12-acre site, which includes the tar pits, the George C. Page Museum, and surrounding parkland. Home to the iconic Los Angeles site of a mammoth clinging to life along the edge of a tar lake. So they're just kicking around ideas right now. They're anyway. So here's a picture of, this is part of the museum. This is in the front of it, where they've got the mastodon, and here's this one. He's like drowning or dying in the oil. It's just gruesome to me, and they're celebrating this. So they're redesigning buildings and land and different stuff, probably to accommodate the continued expansion of the tar pits. So I've had enough of that. Let's go to earthquakes. That's kind of making me sick, think about all that. So now we know where that is. And the closest earthquakes to that are right up here. So we were looking down here. So not too far away was a 2.0 near San Fernando and 1.2, both in the last 24 hours. And the other earthquake swarm that we've been talking about is at Glen Avon. It's right over here, and that is calming down. There's only 13 here today, and I find it interesting how when several people start reporting on the same thing, that it starts going away. It just starts going down for some reason. I don't know why. It was like that with the Oroville Dam situation, and now with this Glen Avon thing, and maybe with the tar pits, with several of us reporting on it. They'll get it done. I don't know. But I've been showing those Glen Avon earthquakes for the last week, because there've been a bunch of them. One day there were over 100. Anyway, so we're looking at USGS here for all magnitudes for the last 24 hours. We're showing 186 earthquakes on the map. So that's the fewest we've seen in a 24-hour period in a while. Of those, 22 or 2.5 magnitude or higher. So let's start with what's going to come off the map. This is that 4.2 in Pakistan. Came in last night at 7:36. I think that was in my report last night. My report last night came out pretty late, so maybe people haven't had a chance to see it. Next, we're looking at this 4.6 on the Carlsberg Ridge. This is in the Indian Ocean, or the Arabian Sea, right on this red line, and it's to the east of this little tip of Africa and to the southeast of Saudi Arabia. This came in at 10:25 this morning. All these times I'm telling you are Pacific time, because that's my time zone. Next, we've got one here in the Mediterranean, right by Crete. 4.1, they're calling it near Carpathos, Greece, at 6:43 this morning. It was shallow. It was only 3.7 kilometers deep. Let's come on down to South Pacific. Here's a 4.8 near Sagavi, Wallace, and Futuna at 8:26 this morning. Here at next to Papua New Guinea, this was on land. 5.2 near Abipura, Indonesia, at 4:53 this morning. 18 kilometers deep. It has the little wave to let us know there might have been a tsunami warning on that. No, the latest report is for June the 7th. So no tsunami report on that, or warning. But that's big enough to have done damage. If it was in a populated area, it could have done damage, especially with it being shallow like that. Here's a 4.9 near Kute, India, at 2:47 this morning. Here's a 5.2 near Karangbadar, Kidul, Indonesia, at 2:32 this morning. Mount Sinabung has erupted again. It's over here, and I think it didn't show a lot of sulfur dioxide on CAMS, but it has erupted again. Now over here by Japan, here's one a 4.1 near Olga, Russia at 1:06 this morning, 337 kilometers deep. So that's a little deeper than what we've been seeing. Here on the northern island of Japan, on Hokkaido, is a 4.3 near Shimo, Furano at 10:27 this morning, 127 kilometers deep. And the deeper they are, the more they'll make the tectonic plates move across the planet. Now down here in South America was a 4.1 near Copiapo, Chile at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Then a 4.4 near Uyuni, Bolivia at 3:39 this afternoon. This one was 189 kilometers deep. Then up here in Colombia, a 4.8 near Aratoca, Colombia. This came in at 12:43 this afternoon, 142 kilometers deep. Now, this is very close. Now, Aratoca was the reporting station, but look how close it is to Bucaramanga. Not very far, and from San Gil. So, I don't know if that caused damage or not. That could have been a 5. They said 4.8. Probably didn't cause damage, and if it did, it probably wasn't very much. Here's one off the coast of El Salvador, 4.2 near Puerto El Triunfo at 10:52 last night. So that's all of the international earthquakes. Oh, no, it's not. I forgot. This one in the Arctic, just north of Iceland and to the east of Greenland on this red line, was a 4.7 near, I don't know how to say this, Itokortormit, Greenland at 8:45 last night. So that's considered an Arctic earthquake. So let's now go to 2.5 magnitude and higher, and we'll start with Hawaii. Oh, I went too far in. And we've got 8 here today. We've got one out here in the ocean, a 2.3. Then a 1.9 at Pahala, 1.8 at Mauna Loa, 2.0 at Leilani Estates, and then these 4 are on the flank of Kilauea, so it's a 1.7, a 1.4, a 2.7, and a 2.0. So the 2.7 is getting up there. That's the highest of all of these. So that's still showing movement. Now in the Caribbean, we're showing only 4 here today. So this is a downtick instead of an uptick. 2.5, 1.9, 2.6, and a 0.5. So that movement has slowed down there. Now coming on up into Alaska. And these Aleutian Islands, this island chain, it's all volcanic, and that's all part of Alaska, all the way across. So we're showing 81 here today. So of those, let's see how many are 2.5 magnitude or higher. We've got 4 in that range. We got a 2.6 Talkeetna, 2.5 Anchor Point, 2.5 Kodiak, and a 2.5 Cordova. Now we were seeing some higher ones than that yesterday and day before, so this might have calmed down a little bit. Now Redoubt Volcano is right in here, and see there's a 1.6 right near Redoubt. Redoubt is right there. 1.6 at Redoubt. Here's a 1.5 at Redoubt. Here's a 1.2, they're calling it at Redoubt. Here's a 2. That's a 2.5 at Anchor Point. So that's Redoubt region as well. 1.6. Here's Anchorage area. There's not very many there. Ooh, look at this little swarm or cluster. Look at that little almost a straight line and then one off to the right. We've got 6 here. And the highest one is this 2.5 at Cordova. So that's interesting. I always like to see clusters. I think that's important. Here's some more in the little armpit. That's what I call that area. And here's, it looks like an uptick coming up into the mountains. See how it's spreading out and across in the mountains. Here's Kobuk. We've got 19 here today. That's an uptick from yesterday. So these are 1s and under, not very big. There's a lot of mining that goes on up there. And then one up here at Arctic Village, a 1.9. And then just got them peppered around. Fairly small. So now let's move on into the lower 48. Well, Oklahoma is calming down. Here, we're going to start with this. This is in the New Madrid hazard zone. It's a 1.7 near Tiptonville, Tennessee. It came in at 2:57 this morning. Very shallow, 2.8 kilometers deep. And we've got one in Oklahoma, 1.9 near Cherokee, that came in at 2:06 this morning. Now we're coming on over to the western side. Let's look at Yellowstone. Well, we're only seeing one at Yellowstone, so that's a downtick. Here's a 2.2, and it's near Dillon, Montana, at 4:36 this morning. Now, in this Pacific Northwest area, we're not seeing any earthquakes reported here today, but on the real-time tremor map from yesterday were 333. And the tremors are what happens. They can measure the earth shaking before it becomes an earthquake, before it registers to make an earthquake. It's called tremors, harmonic tremors. And so this is the measuring of the tremors. So they were clustered basically in 2 places yesterday. Right up here in the Vancouver area, or it's right across from the Vancouver Island. It's right up here across from Seattle, Washington. And then down here by south of Medford. Now remember we saw some yesterday over here? and I said that I expected. Okay, so no earthquakes here, but we're seeing tremors, so we're probably going to see some earthquakes along where these tremors are in the next day, because that's so many. But remember yesterday I said to expect an earthquake right along here, and here it is. It's a 1.5 near Rio Dell, California. That came in at 2:54 this afternoon. So on the tremor map, it wasn't from. Now the Rio Dell is down here, but when let me show you something. Hang on. Uh-oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's go. I gotta go up here. Let me move my map up. When we go back a day, remember the tremors? There was this little swarm down here by Eureka, and I said expect an earthquake in this area in the next day or so, and there it is. There it is. And this is the point where it comes out there. And it's right there. Oops. Here's Eureka. And so we were seeing them along here and then to the south. So this is a 1.5 that came in at 2:54 this afternoon. Now this is important because this is this is showing this Cascadia subduction zone moving, and this is the Juan de Fuca plate here, and then this red line denotes the San Andreas fault line. And so where you've got all these three coming together, this is a juncture point where a lot of earthquakes happen. And then as they happen, they can like go across in a line. Like here we see one at Pyramid Lake, almost straight across from this earthquake. And this is a 0.6, and this one came up or happened at 8:45 last night. So I like to look at things like that. So now let's move on over into Nevada. So there's the one at Pyramid Lake. Then here's Reno, and we're showing three. How many? Oh, they're kind of piled up. We're showing 5 here. We've got some piled up. They're calling it an incline village. The town is down here on the shore. So this is up in the hiking area. Here's a 0.9, 0.3, 0.7, 0.6, and 0.9. So they're not very big, but it's showing movement. And there are fault zones that run right through all this Mount Rose area and through Lake Tahoe. Now we've got a couple over here, a 0.9 and another 0.9 near Urington. Then we've got some down here by Walker Lake and in Hawthorne. Not very many. It's not many, and they're small. Here's a 1.5 near Gabbs. That's one of the larger ones. And notice we don't have any quarry blasts or explosions. Sometimes they blast on a Sunday. Usually they don't. And when they don't blast, we see a downtick in the number of earthquakes, which we're definitely seeing. Because we were seeing 300 a day and over for the last few days. So today we've got 187. So that's a downtick. And we've only got 2 here in southern Nevada today, a 0.2 and a 1.1. And remember, it was so active over here at Alamo for the last couple of weeks. So that's quiet today. So if it starts back up tomorrow, then it might be having to do with human activity over there at Area 51. You just don't know. Okay, in the Mammoth Lakes region, we've got a 1.1. That's all. And then this is the Coso area. Here's a 0.5, 0.6 at Inyokern, 0.9 Wofford Heights. Oh, I spoke too soon. Here's a quarry blast. Here's a 1.8 magnitude quarry blast at Boron, California. They can't even take a Sunday off. What kind of boss is that? Can't even take a Sunday off. So there's a downtick in the number of earthquakes here too. Now let's come into Southern California and Baja. Here's a 1.5 near Campo, California, but it's in Baja. Let's see if any of these are 2.5 magnitude or higher. Nope. Just okay, we got one at Cobb. That's up at the geysers. So in Southern California today, we're seeing 30 earthquakes. So that's a definite downtick from what we've seen for the last week. So Glenavon has gone way down. We've got just a few scattered around here. They're small. Here's a 2.3 at Anza. It looks like that could be the largest one. Now here's the red line. That's the San Andreas fault line. Now up here is the Glenavon or Fontana. Some people are calling it Fontana. But the USGS is reporting most of them at Glenavon. We're seeing 14 here in this area today, including these around here. So that's a definite downtick, because they were having, at one point they were having over 100 right there. So whatever they're doing, they've slowed down. The highest is this 1.4. Oh, 1.5. And that's next to the acid pits over here. I showed that yesterday too. I was basically showing what Dutch Sense had researched. And then we've got these two up here in the northern LA area, a 2.0 and a 1.2 near San Fernando. So we'll be watching this area for the where the tar pits are. We'll definitely be watching that, and making sure there are no earthquakes. Or we'll report on it as soon as we see any earthquakes right up there. I'm telling you, earthquakes and seeping tar are not a good mix. And hissing gas. Here's a 1.4 and a 1.4 at the pinnacles. We'll just come up this red line, the San Andreas fault line. See, it's a downtick. Definitely. It's like, where did all the earthquakes go? And then at the geysers here today, we've got 22. And the largest one is this 2.5 at Cobb that came in at 2:16 this morning. So it's in here. It's in the middle there. And then there's a 2.2, and here's the 2.5, and the rest are 1s and under. So that's a downtick. That's a calm number for the geysers. And then we've got a couple more up here in the mountains. Here's a 1.8 at Alder Springs and a 1.8 at Lake Pillsbury. And then we already saw this one at Rio Dell. So I think that's a wrap. Let's zoom out and see if anything happened while we were recording this. I think we got all those. And the reason I do this earthquake report every night is because I'm keeping a pulse, watching the pulse of Mother Earth. And in the Bible, one of the signs of the end times are earthquakes in diverse places. And there are major earthquakes and cataclysms and upheavals that are coming as we go closer to the end times, or deeper into them, or whatever, however you want to say it. And so I do believe we are in the end times. And so this is my way of keeping an eye and being a watchman or a watchwoman for God and for Jesus's return. And over on my Subscribe channel, I go into deeper topics, or deeper into the topics of spiritual things. And I also put up methane report every time they have new methane that comes out on CAMS. I put that up, and I do a lot of other reporting over there that is not included on YouTube. And so if you'd like to join us over there, it's a safe place. It's we're not censored over there, and it's a safe place where we can go and continue with going deeper into some of these topics that it's kind of too sensitive. Some of them are too sensitive to talk about over here on YouTube. So there's information in the description box below on how to get over to my Subscribe page and how to join us. And it's only $5 a month to support my work. And I was never monetized on YouTube, and I never will be. And so until I got over to Subscribe, I had not made a dime from this work. But now I'm getting some subscribers and donations, which are greatly appreciated. And, you know, it makes a difference. And so, you know, it's not about the money, but in order for us to have a safe place to go deeper into these things, and maybe even to report on them, we're going to have to go to some private platforms, I'm thinking. So until next time, I recommend everyone get your spiritual house in order, because time is very short. And until next time, God bless you, and go in peace, and good night.